Hey, we're back. I really apologize for that. I accidentally pushed the back button on my phone. I got to get me a laptop. A laptop will be the best way to do these live chats. So I really apologize. Let's get Sis Monique back on here so we can just jump into it. Bear with me. Just inviting Monique. I really apologize. I accidentally hit the back arrow on my phone. We really need to get, or I need to get a laptop for these live chats. But thank you so much for bearing with us. We're back. Shalom, Empress. I'm trying to figure this out and I'm messing things up. So I better let you join the chat. Shalom, Eddie. How are you? All is well. Peace and favor, brothers and sisters. Thank you so much for joining us. Today we're going to be discussing mental illness and the so-called Black female. We'll definitely touch how mental illness affects the man as well. The negative effects of exposing children to sex. We're going to discuss that. And also what exactly the menstrual cycle is. So those are going to be the three topics that we cover today. We got Sis Monique, Empress, just, man, showing so much love with the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding that has been bestowed upon her. And I'm so grateful for her to be, alive in this day, to be a part of this remnant. So it's a beautiful thing. And we're just going to be bringing her in just a moment. Shalom, Dominique. I hope you're feeling better. You know we got work to do. This is the return of the matriarch. So be encouraged. All of you guys, be encouraged. It's only going to get better for us. We are definitely on the right track. We're doing the right thing. Shalom, Empress, how are you? Beautiful and vibrant. All is well. Yes.
I can see you today.
Yes. Well, I'm glad you can. And you can see everybody that's watching in the comments as well.
Yes, I can see the comments. Yes.
Nice.
Gosh, all kinds of people joining in. All right, let me find a position for this.
Okay. You got your laptop?
No, I don't have my laptop here. Let me see if I can. I was just trying to pull it up on the computer, but I was just trying to hurry up and do it. So let me just do it on here right quick.
Okay, no problem. Shalom, Dominique. Hey, Tammy. Thanks so much for joining. I hope all is well with everybody. I hope everybody had a wonderful day today. I hope that it was prosperous and that you made it happen, whatever your heart's desire was, because you got the power. We got the power. So today, just to recap what we're going to discuss today and what Monique is going to share with us, we're going to get into mental illness and the so-called Black female. We're going to talk about the negative effects of sex and exposing it to children. And we're going to just get into what the menstrual cycle really is. So Monique, hey, I'm here to learn. So,
all right. Let me see if I can join you from the computer.
Okay, no problem. Shalom, cousin, how are you? Thank you so much for joining in. Monique Azure Mayor says, "Hey, Monique, how are you?"
Hey. I don't know. I don't see how you can do it on. How do you do it on a computer? I don't see.
Well, you have to have the camera. Does the computer have a camera?
Yes, it has a camera.
So maybe it's not.
Oh, you see.
Well, you have to have the camera.
It's on there. Yes.
Mm-hmm. So we're gonna get started in just a moment, guys. We this is the second day, so we getting all our technicalities down pat.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much for your patience. Thank you so much for the love.
I guess we can't
Yeah,
do it on here. We're just going to do it on the phone.
yeah. So I'm gonna make sure I keep my fingers away from buttons.
Look at you, Brian.
Anh form thấy là form mấy cài dưới.
Yeah, she's from Thailand.
Nice, beautiful.
My
How are you?
husband follow me.
This is my aunt.
Hey, Auntie, you a superstar. You international now. Yes, baby.
I don't know how to do it from computer. I'm just X this out.
Okay.
You want to watch from here? You want to watch this? On your phone. Just get on your phone and you'll see it on your phone.
I see.
Off of Facebook Live.
Yeah, I know. My phone is working.
Yeah, because the invitation should have went to you, so a bunch of people on here. But anyway, all right, so we can continue. I guess I'm just going to use the phone.
Okay. Before you get started, Elliot says, if you can squeeze it in, when will the Most High destroy Babylon the Great?
I don't know. That's not a question that's put to me.
You don't know, sis.
I
The
mean,
scripture
that's I
says
just.
no man knows the time of the day, but we see the signs, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, we've been telling people to leave Babylon. The scripture says to flee from the land of the north, and we have to save ourselves. Nobody's going to fly out of the sky and save us. Everybody got to save themselves. So that's why we're doing this retreat, so that you can come and see what the land is about and, get acclimated to the environment and the surroundings and be back in nature again, so that you can really feel where you need to be. You're going to feel right at home. That's where we're from. We got to get back to nature. So
Yes.
yeah, that's what it's all about.
Exactly. Because the thing is, nobody knows when that moment happens. But when it happens, we all would know it then at that time.
I'm telling you, everybody
Yeah.
gonna know.
Everything is a process.
Well, Monique, you take it away. Whichever topic you want to tackle first. I'm moving out the way.
Okay, well, I guess we can just go in order. We can talk about mental illness.
Okay.
It's very common, especially in our community, and we don't know how to discern the difference between mental illness but also spiritual experiences, because there is a difference. And again, like I was saying yesterday, that a lot of people are experiencing a lot of things that are different. You want to sit right here? Oh, she gone. So experiencing a lot of things that are different. So the thing is, experiencing mental health is actually mental health today is contribute to life stressors, food that we eat, the environment that we live in, and all kinds of other things that is dedicated to having a chemical imbalance within the body, because that's all mental illness is a chemical imbalance. We can have a diet that contributes to depression every day. We can have a diet that contributes to anxiety every day. We can have a diet that can contribute to psychosis every day. But that's what it all comes down to, is a chemical imbalance within the body. And that's why people experience mental illness. And then, of course, we have drugs and we have alcohol and all these other things that people put within their bodies, but it all starts with what they eat. And that's why we have mental illness. There are some people that are organically mentally ill, but it's still an imbalance within the body, but it's just organic. It's not so much what they're eating, but it's just they're born that way. They're just born with this chemical imbalance. And then some of those organic people who are organically mentally ill, they have to be maintained with, I guess, I don't know, natural environment, maybe medication, but they might not be functional and normal. But a lot of people today are contributing to mental illness. Because again, it could be the environment, food, things that we put on our body, lotion, all kinds of things that we're aware of. Because again, we are chemistry sets. We have to be mindful of that. It's just like when you put deodorant under your arms, anything can knock the balance off. So, and all those things can contribute to that. And then also hormone imbalance. I mean, hormone is nothing but a chemical.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So again, we have all those different factors that can contribute. But in particular, let's talk about women. Women, especially Black women, are experiencing a lot of, I guess, turmoil in our lives. You know what I'm saying? We have a lot of people that are concentrating on, I guess, our demise, should I say, because we don't get help just like everybody else do. You know what I'm saying? We're like last on the list. Um, when it comes to being helped or whatever the case might be. So it'll drive somebody insane or drive a person crazy just by being in an environment. But again, the biggest factor is the food that we eat. Seriously. So as
Yes.
far as like mental illness, yeah.
Now, what about with like schizophrenia and bipolarism and stuff like that, where you're hearing voices? What is that? What kind of mental illness is that considered? Is that the
Well,
organic?
yeah, it can be. There are organic schizophrenics. I work with a lot of them, but for the most part, it's psychosis. It's like when you have hallucinations and then delusional thinking. And so basically, it's a chemical imbalance. It's just too much dopamine on the brain, and it's just, and then the person hear things or whatever the case might be. Bipolar disorder is just basically it's when you have a manic phase and then you have a depressive phase. You go up and down, highs and lows, or whatever the case might be. Some people are naturally like that, or whatever the case. But with bipolar disorder, it can be maintained or managed with lithium. That's what they used to give them, lithium tablets. But instead of going and finding something to put in your body, you could just get like a lithium stone, a necklace, or whatever the case might be. But again, all of those are chemical imbalances. All of them are. So a person can come away from that if they understand what it is and then also how to alleviate it from their lives. But also, too, that we need to understand there is a difference between when you hear and see things, it doesn't mean that everything we see and hear means that you are schizophrenic. Some people see and hear things. I do too. I have visions or whatever the case might be, but that does not mean that I'm suffering from psychosis. That's just it's just something different. So that's why I'm saying we're living in a whole different age and time where we have more access to who we are and we are growing. So the thing is, well, for the most part, it's always negative. So just put it like that. That's how you discern, and that's how you know the difference, because the voices are negative. Negative. It's not positive. They don't tell you positive things. And then also too, paranoia can come along with the psychosis package, where people think somebody's out to get them and all this and that. So those people are perfectly should be on medications or some type of management system that can help them with their thought pattern, whatever the case might be. So even just talking to somebody can help them to maintain their thought patterns or whatever. And then some people just receive downloads and they don't know what to do or whatever the case might be. And that's not necessarily schizophrenia. It could just be a divine download and the person's just probably receiving it too fast or whatever. So it's all kinds of implications on how it works, how it goes, but also the person just have to learn to discern. They have to know themselves. And once they start getting into self-cultivation systems and learning who they are and how their body function and work, then they can understand all these things and implications that happen mostly after foods we eat. You know what I'm saying? Because the thing is, we have our experience by what we eat. And then eating is not necessarily, I know it's through the mouth, but eating could be through the skin, because the skin is the biggest organ. It absorbs, you know what I'm saying? Or it's something you put in your vagina can make you go crazy. You know what I'm saying? Something
Wow.
that you put in your hair can make you go crazy, because, we have all these different products and they say they're safe and this and that and the other. And we depend on others to create things for us instead of creating things for ourselves. You know what I'm saying? So the thing
Right.
is, we let people into our lives. We let people into our bodies just by creating things for us instead of us figuring out what's right for our chemistry sets. So basically, in a nutshell, I mean, mental illness has changed over the years. It used to be, we had these DSM-4s, now the DSM-5 is out. And then they just give you this cookie cutter thing. Oh, this person have A, B, C, and D. Then that means they have this, that, and this, whatever the case might be. But again, sitting here dealing and working with people, we have a whole different phenomenon going on with people having certain types of experiences and things like that. But again, it all starts with the what we put on our bodies, what we eat, and what we do, environments, but also childhood traumas or trauma
Hmm.
period can force a person to go into temporary psychosis or events or whatever the case might be, even down to having our menstruals or whatever the case might be, can actually take us there. And that's usually somebody that's very, very off. Maybe their diet. I'm telling you, diet just plays a very, very important part in
It
what
does.
happens to us. Hmm.
And I want you to expound a bit on what exactly food is, because, you know, the understanding that you gave me, it's more than just food. You know, you talk about when you eat it, you receive information and you receive these
Hmm.
downloads. And it's not necessarily, food is not meant to gorge, but it's meant to survive, but more so from the messages that you receive, because food have spirits too. You know,
Exactly.
plants, everything is alive. So, you know, it's all spiritual. So I wanted you to expound on that, you know, from previous conversations that we had, so that the brothers and sisters can hear and, you know, become aware of what exactly food is.
Okay, well, actually, like I was saying before, there's an interchangeable relationship between us and nature, meaning what we're supposed to eat and have in or you back now. So there's an interchangeable relationship between
Mm-hmm.
us and nature. What we eat from nature is what gives us our prophecy. You know what I'm saying? We eat the foods, and then the food gives the knowledge. This the actual nature is actually the tree of knowledge. We're supposed to try to eat as fresh as we can, or try to get things that's straight from nature, whatever the case might be. It's not possible because we've been so dependent on somebody else to provide our food for us, and then we wonder why we have all these conditions. And when people provide the food for you, they create these conditions. And let me tell you something: not one rich person goes to the grocery store. Not one billionaire, trillionaire, whatever the case might be, goes to the grocery store. They have lush gardens around their houses, and this is what they eat every day. And we
That's
don't
right.
understand that, the importance of that. And that's why we need to get up and go eat from the garden every day. Now, when you eat food properly, there's a process, a digestive process called glycosis. That's supposed to happen every time we eat, and every time we eat, it's supposed to build. But our body is always in survival mode because we're eating the wrong foods. It's always in repair mode, and that's why there's too much insulin, or too much insulin being released in the body or in bile to get all those sugars, because sugar is in everything and sugars is not regulated.
Mm-hmm.
And sugar does not necessarily mean candy. Sugar and salt are used as preservatives. You understand what I'm saying? So something could taste
Right.
sour or whatever the case might be, but it's used as a preservative. But also we eat a lot of granulates. We don't eat pure sugar. That's only for the rich. You know, understand what I'm saying? So
Right.
once we start eating pure sugars or whatever the case might be, it can be a whole different ball game. But yes, we receive our prophecies from our food. We receive it from the foods that we eat, or whatever the case might be. And then once you go into proper digestion or whatever, then the body grows. And then that's when you can become powerful and strong. And that's where you can enhance who you are, enhance your powers. And then you'll start seeing things on a physical manifest because you're eating properly. And then I know there's food
Right.
combinations for different people, different bodies, male, female, whatever the case might be. But the whole point is, the purer your food is, the purer your body can become. And it's going to take 6 months. Because in order for your whole body, everything to turn over, for everything to be well, it's going to take 6 months for all that to grow back, but also for all the repairs to happen. And I don't care what happens to you or what type of condition you got, your whole body can repair itself. It really can. The
Yes, I
mitochondria is
wanted
a
you to
very
touch on
beautiful
that.
thing. The mitochondria is
Yes.
building blocks of life, and the mitochondria dwells in everyone. The female has her own mitochondria signature, but the male has the mitochondria signature of his mother. So the thing is, he can enhance that mitochondria, or she can enhance that mitochondria, just by eating the right foods, and then also
Mm-hmm.
meditating and praying with it. Because the thing is, it's a spiritual component to that. It's the building blocks of life. Is what gives us it just makes who we are, basically. And then
Right.
it's what makes your skin look good, or whatever the case might be. So whatever it is, those are some of the components of who we are. But also, again, you just go back to food and eat the right
And
foods.
now,
The purer, the better. Go ahead.
yes, yes. And you had mentioned that we have the ability to regrow organs.
Oh
So,
yeah.
you know, we have a damaged liver, you know, some bad kidneys or what have you. We have the ability to regrow those organs, or, you know, repair them, like you were saying. Can you tell us more about the process of, you know, the food definitely is the foundation.
Hmm. Yeah.
What's next?
Again, so that's the whole point of the glycosis, because the thing is, when you go into that state, nobody goes into that state unless they're pure. And I think that's what Dr. Sadie and all the rest of these people were teaching, whatever the case might be, because once you go into that state of non-repair, things start to grow and manifest, and you can regrow back organs, whatever the case might be. But also, again, with females, you know what I'm saying, we birth more than babies. So when we drop that seed every month, or whatever the case might be, that seed can be used to recreate organs within our bodies, even down to our hearts and all kinds of other things, whatever the case might be. because again, it's a process. Everything is renewed. I don't care what it is, it's renewed every 6 months. But see, conditions are renewed because we still have the same eating habits. Once we drop those eating habits or we do something different, you throw something in there, then something different happens. So that's why people who get serious about their bodies and their conditions or whatever, and they just change the way they eat, their whole body change, and all of a sudden it's a miracle.
Mm-hmm.
They done got rid of cancer, they got rid of diabetes, they got rid of high blood pressure. It's just that their body has went into repair mode and it repaired their body, and they were able to repair their organs. And everybody's able and capable of doing it. Again, it's all about the foods. You have to eat the right foods, and you just have to give up this processed foods, because the processed foods are built to create conditions, mental illness,
Mm-hmm.
sickness, and all kinds of things, disunity and non-understanding and foggy minds and all kinds of other things because of the foods we're eating. So again, once
Right.
again, we're able and capable of doing that, but it starts with that first, and then understanding
Yes.
how your body works, and then also understanding the timing. Because again, it takes 6 months for everything to turn over. But within that 6 months, eating, meditating, and understanding how each part works, you can imagine it in your mind. And once you imagine in your mind, it manifests. Because that's why they say you think about it, it comes, it manifests. So if I'm thinking about
Mm-hmm.
my heart and I know it's damaged or whatever the case might be, and I want my heart to be repaired, I want my breast to be repaired or whatever the case might be, I have to first understand how it looks on the inside. Once I understand how it looks on the inside, I can, with my mind, create that manifestation within my mind, that repair. I'm telling you, this stuff is deep, and that's all part of the ritual meditation process, and to channel it into your body and channeling right, and then
Yeah.
also to get your chi strong, but also to do things like levitate and all these other things. You have to see it first within yourself first, and then after that, it manifests in the physical. So
Yeah, because
anything
we used to
physical is what
fly.
creates spiritual. Mm-hmm.
Right, definitely. So now you mentioned that the seed or the egg during the menstrual could actually be used. So that's kind of going into the whole stem cell, right? To repair the body of the female as well. How does that happen? Um, as far as how would the female utilize the egg that she would be discharging during menstrual to heal herself?
Well, again, when the egg discharge and then the egg finds itself unfertilized, it will die. It will begin to die, and then it'll come out with the menstrual. It'll come through the lining, as it'll come through with the lining, and then it'll shed or whatever the case might be. But there was a time when women were able to, because we were born with many billions of these eggs, and there were times where
Wow.
we can utilize these and create certain parts, just like you just said with stem cell research. That's what they use. They use our eggs, they create ears and legs and kidneys and all kinds of stuff, whatever the case might be. And
Wow.
they grow all kinds of things in labs. And then, stem cell research has been banned. So they say to the general public or whatever the case might be. But I don't
Mm.
see how somebody who has the means and the ways to create whatever they want, and then we wonder why so many, certain people live longer than we do. But we do have the power as females, as long as you are fully functional and you in tune with yourself, you can utilize those to repair certain parts of your body. Because the thing is you, it's 100% your DNA, your eggs are. And again, you can use those eggs to create certain phenomena in your body. So that's why when we talk about fibroids, I don't know, fibroids is just eggs outside all over the place and grew all over your uterus and stuff like that, grew everywhere, whatever. And then, of course, like you were saying, you open them up, it got teeth and all kinds of things in them, whatever the case might be. So how does that happen? So the thing is, with bad diet and bad this or whatever the case might be, these things are being created. So if you can create those fibroids with all these teeth, and then you can grow back teeth and all kinds of stuff, whatever the case might
Yes,
be.
you can. You
Mm-hmm.
can really grow teeth. I got a tooth pulled about maybe 7, 8 years ago, and it's growing back.
Okay.
It's growing back in my mouth. So that's
Mm-hmm.
right. Now you had mentioned about a conspiracy where doctors are lying to females, especially brown women, about the risk of cancer, this and that, and so tricking them into having hysterectomies. Can
Yeah.
you speak about that a little bit?
Yeah, well, there's a phenomenon just like everywhere else in the world where Black women are led to believe that something is wrong with their uterus and it's best for it to be removed, just like our breasts. Because once the breast is removed, you don't have milk ducts anymore, so you really can't give that knowledge because that's what you give to your baby, whatever the case might be. But there's a
Yeah.
phenomenon where there are a lot of young girls that's losing their uteruses or whatever. I mean, some of it, I mean, a lot of it is contribute to like um, just basically not respecting who they are and respecting that organ, but they're removing it. But it's not like they're taking it and throwing it into the garbage. I mean, it's very vital and important organ because the thing is, when they created Gila from Henrietta Lacks, she had full blown cancer, and so they took her parts and then they created Gila all over the world, which is contribute to that's why we have vaccines. We have the Peachtree dish and all kinds of other things that they created from Gila, whatever. So the thing is, a female's uterus is very important. It's a very important organ. It's a blood source. So the thing is, even though it has sickness in it, it's still important. They can use it to create all kinds of pharmaceutical items with it or whatever. So yeah, so it's a phenomenon now. It's nothing new because they were doing it, for a long time with the eugenics or whatever the case might be, that they're removing the uterus from the female or whatever. But instead of them taking it like how they used to do in the past, they'll just say that they have some type of phenomenon going on, and then even though the female don't feel it, and she's like, "Well, I don't feel sick or anything like that." Oh, you have to get it removed, and then once that happens, it's all over for her as far as her moving forward as a woman, with her uterus. And I understand, whatever the case might be, but it's difficult to be young and go through that process, and then you got these raging hormones and all kinds of things, changes that you go through at a young age. It's just so unfortunate, but it's just that is I guess that comes from not knowing who you are and understanding your body.
Right.
It's just a shame,
Yes, it
basically. That's it.
is.
Hmm.
Yes, it is. So, with the whole mental illness and, you know, for people that are dealing with stress or, maybe dealing with anxiety, do you feel like the mental health doctors are taking advantage of those people and diagnosing them with, diseases and conditions that they don't have, for the
Yeah.
sake of the money? Because from the research that I did, if you begin taking certain medications, it will actually make you have a mental break,
Hmm.
because of course it changes your chemical balance. So do you think that, that's happening, like widespread, and, that's something that's being pushed, even on the sisters, to basically control, ultimately it's all about controlling, but to throw our lives completely off track so that we can't fulfill our destinies.
Yeah.
You
Once again, yes, they are. And then see, that's the thing about when you are totally and completely dependent. When somebody is making your food, your clothes, your homes, your whatever, telling you how you do this, how you do that, or whatever the case might be, you know what I'm saying? So the thing is, these conditions come up because the thing about it, they understand how chemistry works, and understanding biochemistry would help somebody. It's the same thing, it's the same component. So the process happens all over again. Certain things ferment inside of us, and you can get a jar and ferment food or whatever the case might be. And so that's why we have all these conditions. But yes, I've seen it many of times where people were committed and people were diagnosed saying this and saying that or whatever the case might be, and then they have these issues and problems, and they go their whole lives trying to fix themselves up, whatever the case might be. But yes, doctors do say that, but today is a big business. So the thing is, becoming mentally
yes,
ill or whatever the case might be is very easy to do, but also to become committed. And then of course there's a lot of people who are outspoken, speaking up about certain things or whatever the case might be, and all of a sudden they find themselves mentally ill because they're not paying attention to what's going on around them. Because if you're going to be protected,
right,
you have to protect yourself 360 all the way around. You can't just
right,
let things go and say, this is what I'm doing. You have to educate yourself about what goes on around you, how you eat, how you move, but also just being able to discern who's in your circle and also who's talking to you about whatever the case might be. But again, it happens all the time. So people have to
yes,
understand how these things work. And when they understand how these things work, they're able to articulate, this is not me. But when people accept things and say, okay, I'm crazy, let me go get my crazy pills or whatever the case might be, yes, the condition is
right,
created because, again, like you said, it creates a chemical imbalance. You could give a
Mm-hmm.
person with schizophrenia medication. Next thing you know, they're just gone, and they might not even have
Yes.
that in balance. And I've seen so many people that almost lost their lives due to thinking that they have this and have that, and then when they take the medication, they um they become lost. So anyway, so
Man.
that's that for that. Yeah.
So I mean, how what is the responsibility of the matriarch? What is the responsibility of that particular sister or those particular sisters that are dealing with mental illness, and how are we going to help them get back on track and reclaim their life? Like what are the steps to take to, to basically heal yourself from that particular, condition?
Well, first of all, the first thing I would do in that situation is I would evaluate what they say I have. And then the only thing they have to do is just simply just look up all the characteristics and symptomatology that's behind the so-called diagnosis. Once they look at the symptomatology behind the diagnosis, they got to ask themselves, is this me? Is what's going on in my life? But also look at how you can cure yourself naturally if you do have these conditions, because anything could be cured naturally. It doesn't we don't have to necessarily turn to pharmaceuticals. And let me tell you
That's
something,
right.
pharmaceuticals itself are plants. It's just
That's
processed
right.
plants. So everything comes from plants or whatever the case might be. Well, why not go to the real thing? So we
Right.
use plants. So everything from the earth, whether it's rocks, which is dirt, or salts or whatever the case might be, is rocks. And then you have the foods, the trees, whatever the case might be, the herbs or whatever, the water,
Mm-hmm.
certain type of sea vegetables and things like that. So that's what I would do. So if I was diagnosed with anything, I would rather seek out a natural source. And then the natural source cures, versus medication just linger you on each day because people have to get their money.
Right.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
basically, researching and changing your diet are the first steps to rehabilitation for any
Right.
mental illness. Is that
Yeah,
okay?
it's
So I
research and then just working with people, but most people know their conditions, but also too, again, it's environment, food, all these things contribute to it. Because sometimes just taking a person out of a certain environment, then all of a sudden they sane. I've seen that happen. So,
wow.
so again, the body is fed not only through the mouth but all orifices. You got eyes, what you see is being fed, what you smell is being fed, what you hearing, what you listening to every day is being fed, because
Mhm.
some people just get beat down just by listening, some mental abuse or whatever. All those things can make us sick, especially when it's
Yeah.
redundant. We hear it over and over and over again, things that are being done to our body. I mean, all kinds
Right.
of things can get created in us. Trauma creates so many conditions. Trauma can create high blood pressure. Trauma can create diabetes, all kinds of things, or whatever the case might be. So, again, just
Now, what about
understand.
those sisters? With
Mhm.
for Sorry to interrupt you. For those sisters, even brothers who have, it's not necessarily a mental illness, but the mental break is coming through trauma that
Mhm.
you've experienced, or they've experienced, as a youth. How do they get over that hurdle? How do they heal themselves?
Well, to be quite honest with you, in the being in this field, trauma is basically the leading cause of all mental illness. So it just depends on the
Wow.
degree. Yeah, trauma. So the thing is, and then trauma can start with physical, mental, um, just all kinds of different kinds of abuse can contribute to trauma. So when any person that has trauma, they got to understand what it is that created it. So, and some people just don't pay attention. They don't pay attention to what's going on. And then once you get to talking to them and say, well, what happened? They get to telling you their story or whatever the case might be. Then that's the key. That's the key to their trauma right there, when they understand what happened to them. And what they can do is alleviate it by addressing it, because that's why
Right.
trauma lingers on. It reoccurs. It comes back over and over again, whatever the case might be. So again, they just it just takes them understanding who they are, self-cultivating system, understanding how they work or whatever, but also how to get in tune with God within them. And that's the
Hmm.
self-cultivating system. So I'm not going to tell anybody what system to use, because some people are whoever they are or whatever. But a lot of people don't know how to inner cultivate. They just know how to outer cultivate, because for so many of us, we've been taught to reach outside of ourselves to go find salvation when salvation is within. So,
Mm.
knowing how to access that and practicing that and meditating to that or whatever the case might be, then you start seeing the miracles. So basically, that's
Yes.
how it works. So you can overcome anything. I don't care what it is and how dreadful it looks. Trust me, you can come back. You can come back from
Yes.
anything because our bodies have the equipment, and we just need to be reminded, especially the sisters have to be reminded of that, understand how they work. And once they are reminded, they are empowered. But also, to the guys, too, you know what I'm saying? They have to understand how they work, but also to work with what they have. And then also to work towards becoming complete. So it's a whole different process for them. So because we are complete already, that's why we lead. And then men protect. So within that protection, they're learning who they are, but also within that protection, they're becoming full and complete. So
And
I'm
how
telling
and
you,
how is that happening? What are they gaining to become full and complete?
well, their consciousness change, their consciousness and understanding changes, and they'll be able to understand and comprehend on a whole different level than what they're comprehending on now. Because the thing is, they only are the extent of who they are. So if the chromosome is not complete, that's the consciousness. So if the chromosome is complete, the consciousness change. So that's the benefit. And then also too, they become X-Men, real live X-Men. You know what I'm saying? See, we are there already, but we don't practice it. If you don't lose it, if you don't use it, you lose it. And so that's the thing about it. Women need to understand their power. Once they understand their power, they can move forward. But as far as men, those they have to take themselves through. Well, when we come up and they see alongside how the body develops and grows, supposed to be the rites of passage. The rites of passage go along with cultivating the body to be its ultimate. And then that's why cultivation, God starts within. And then see, as you grow up, there are certain principles and things that you have to go through within the body. And it's different from boys versus girls or whatever the case might be. But once they learn these things, and by the time they become grown, they have these practices and principles built within inside of them. So nobody can tell them who the fuck they are. So the thing is, they can
Right.
move forward. You know what I'm saying? And then they're not easily tricked. They can discern because the thing is, they learn how to listen to that voice within, which is God. So again, in a cultivation system is key. In a cultivation is what's going to take you or to receive salvation within. Because again, we all know how to reach out and we all want to help people and do all this other things, whatever the case might be. But if you're not healthy within, you can't help anybody. And
That's
that's the
right.
truth.
Now I want to ask that is the truth. In reference to the men, do you think that some men are experiencing cases of mental illness because they're basically operating out of ignorance, like as far as trying to be the lead and or taking that position when that's not what's natural for a man? Do you think that some men are dealing with stress or dealing with mental illness because of that, because they're just because we've been deceived, of course, so the man has been placed on top when it's actually supposed to be the woman? So is are some of our men dealing with mental illness because they're just out of order?
Well, I think to a degree that they can be, but the thing about it is just like everything else, when we were taught to reach outside of ourselves for salvation, they were taught that this is how it goes, and they were taught that we were objects and we were nothing and all kinds of things like that that they internalize, and because of that, they act accordingly. And because they have no knowledge on how we work, but and no knowledge of who we are, because I'm telling you, we are the strongest woman. So the thing is, you know what I'm saying, if they support us and stand behind us righteously, they will receive their power, because the thing is, they only gonna receive it through the woman. They're gonna
Through
receive
us,
their
right?
salvation through the woman. So the thing is, once they do that and they realize and they become our protectors, in the end, the gifts are great. Because I mean, I'm telling you, they will be much better off in life, whatever the case
Because
might be,
we're
and it
gonna
has
look
nothing to do
out.
with we're gonna look
Yeah,
out. Because the thing is, we're gonna teach them something. So the thing is, when they try to get where we are, and getting where we are, you have to have some type of point of reference. Your point of reference is the black woman. Everybody else know that but us. Everybody kneels down and get on their knees and pray to her, but
even
we
the
don't.
Pope praying to the black woman, right?
Exactly. Everybody
Everybody know
do.
the truth.
That's everywhere. Like my aunt, she's from Thailand. They have the same figures too. It's
Wow.
black, but it got Asian eyes. You know what I'm saying? So everybody does
Okay.
it but us. We just only ones that don't, you know, whatever the case might be. And it's not so much worshiping, it's just understanding and respecting the beginnings, and then understanding and
Right.
respecting the beginnings, then saying you pay homage, and then also to karma and all these things always come back threefold. So the thing is, when somebody protects that, they are enhanced, because the woman, like say for instance, like right now, I can create prayers and send them to my sons, and they are empowered. Like any type of sickness I go through, any type of whatever I catch, I can send these prayers to my son, and my sons will not get it. Like, my sons, they never had chicken pox, but I did. I had it real bad, but they are grown now, but they never had chicken pox. So the thing is, I can send these meditations, because the thing is, they have my mitochondria that's dwelling within their
Ooh,
body.
that's
So even
powerful.
though they're outside of me, I can still send those prayers and meditations to that mitochondria, because the mitochondria is very powerful. It's the building blocks of life. Everything turns over. I told you, every 6 months, it is the mitochondria is responsible for that, and you get that from your mother. So the thing is,
Yeah.
protecting that, what I'm saying, it would be in his best interest, because the thing is, no matter what I go through in life, if I went through it first as a mother and I have this knowledge within my body, he's protected. So I'm
Definitely.
telling you, our men have to get on board, and they just understand the natural way, because before we got ourselves in these conditions that we were in, that we follow matriarch. See, matriarch is what falls under what is called divine law. And see, with divine law, we have what is called natural hierarchy. And natural hierarchy is when people fall in place because they understand their purpose. You understand what I'm saying? They understand who they are. And again, it started when we had the rites of passage. What I'm saying? And within that rites of passages, we had cultivation systems that cultivated that child from birth. Because the thing is, they went on the breast, that's self-cultivating, that's teaching that child something, because they're receiving all the knowledge that you have within that breast, all that knowledge. So that's the first food,
Mm.
the colostrum, all that. So then after that, once they come off the breast, they go on nature. They get off your breast and get on nature's breast. Because the thing about it, all
Mother.
along breastfeeding, you're supposed to be eating right off the tree. So they're receiving
Yeah.
a synthesized version of what you eat off the tree. So now they come off the breast. So now they're eating from it, because now they have the teeth to be able to process these things. But also too, the teeth is a very important thing, and the tongue and all those things too. Because the thing is, it, the taste, it gives you a way to speak and talk, because you'll create so many frequencies and vibrations by tasting certain types of food. So we miss all of that because we go to and we get processed foods, and we don't
Mm.
understand the importance of what
McDonald's.
we used to eat. Yeah, all that type of stuff.
Yes.
And then
Mm.
meat. You know what I'm saying? We're not, if you look at the anatomy of the teeth, you know what I'm saying? We have mostly molars and incisors in the front, pierce the fruits and the vegetables, and we only have 4 canines. Now, some people don't even have canines. They have all incisors and then molars that's in the back to grind grains. You have the incisors in front to pierce fruits and vegetables, and then you have the 4 canines. So the thing is, people are gonna do what they want to do, but they just need to understand. I mean, they can do what they want, but the thing is, if you want to work righteously with self and find God within, you have to work within the paradigm of what's real, but also how you work.
Mm.
So anyway, so that's it basically in a nutshell. So that's how it goes with that.
Yes.
Hmm.
Now we got a couple questions. Dominique asks, what techniques can one use besides meditation to seek self-understanding?
Well, first of all, it's going to start right now where we are now. It's going to start with education. We have to
Mm.
understand who we are, because the thing about all of this, especially when we have the retreat, it's going to start with education, and then education lead from there. Especially the women, they're going to feel it. So that's why I was saying that certain things is
Yeah.
going to be for them, and they're gonna
Hmm.
I'm gonna because I tell people like this. I don't teach, I just remind you, because the thing is,
Mm.
this power is
It's
within
already
every
in us.
female. It's already in
That's
you.
right.
So it's not me saying, oh, this is something new. It's just me reminding you of something, because the thing is, you are cultivated in something to depend on somebody else. And then somebody told you that you're all the way down here, wherever the case might be, when you're truly up there. So I
Mm.
just look at all these women, I think about, Superman, when the kryptonite who stops him, that we just put kryptonite all around us. We wear it around our necks and everywhere else, whatever the case might be, then we wonder why we don't take off. But also too, some of us
Mm.
choose to lower ourselves just to fit in society, because society say this is how it's supposed to be. But I'm telling you, it doesn't change anything. It's not like, you dominate or anything like that, because it's not in our nature to do that. You know what I'm saying? It's
Right.
in our nature to love and be nourishing, you know what I'm saying? And nurturing or whatever the case might be. That's our nature. But the thing is, we still have power. And then it's within the nature of the man to protect because he's built that way. It's within our power to nourish. And nourishment starts with paying homage to the earth and doing things, but also listening and paying attention. And then also paying attention to that blueprint, we'll start to create the society that works with us and who we are, and not so much this paradigm that we have now. Because if it was left up to
Mhm.
me, I would build myself a circle house, a round house, whatever the case might be, because that's sacred geometry. And then when they box us in these
Yes.
houses, or whatever the case might be, then we wonder why we're boxed in and we don't move forward, because this is not a natural design, especially for the female. A lot of
Mm.
those African villages that have those circle houses, and those Native Americans that had the circle teepees and things like
The
that, then they wonder why
TPs.
they had so much power within those things. Is because they created a certain type of design and environment that helped to cultivate them on the inside, but also bring things that's on the inside out. So we just have to relook at everything, the whole paradigm that's built around us, this whole rat maze that was built around.
Hmm.
So anyway, so just
Definitely.
knowing all that and understanding, like first, it's going to take education. It's going to take education first, and then after that, you have to put it to practice. Because I'm just the kind of person I'll tell
Yes.
you, and then after that, you have to practice what you preach, and it's not going to take no time, especially for the woman. Because the thing is, their comprehension. I don't care what type of level she's on. I don't care if she's the hood chick up to the intellectual chick, but she's going to understand something that I'm going to say to her, and that's something that's within the body. And see, only women know. That's just like you can talk to a woman who never had a baby about having a baby, but she's going to feel it. She's going to be able to relate to
Hmm.
it and understand what the hell you're talking about versus, a man is not going to be able to relate to it at all. So certain information they're not going to be able to relate to. So with wisdom keepers or men, I would give them the information that they need, and their information is basically learning how to enhance who they are to help to grow their mitochondria to become complete. And I know it sounds crazy, but it's happening naturally. And those who that it didn't happen to, they just need to understand that there are certain frequencies and vibrations, because that's how they work. That can contribute to that, and it's going to come from a woman. So if their mother is around, still around, if they got a bad relationship with their mother, that right there in itself is basically keeping them down. But I understand some mothers are bad or whatever the case might be, or contribute to the person that they are, but they just have to learn how to find some type of unity with her, even just not talking to her, but just praying to the mitochondria. They can still pull
Mm.
and be able to become complete. And they still would be men. It's not like they're going to change into a woman or anything like that. Because again, the implications for men was they just once some point in time they were complete. And again, like I said, something happened to create the mutation for them not to be complete, but also to it, the cosmos and all kinds of other things that contribute to that. But right now, things are different, and that's what I'm saying about the babies that are born today. They're born different, so that's it.
Yes,
Hmm.
definitely. Bosco says, "Why aren't we the lead?" And he's speaking from a male point of view. Why isn't the man supposed to be the head?
Well, again, the thing is, when okay, all consciousness is received through the womb. All consciousness. So if all consciousness is received through the womb, how do you receive the consciousness? So the people who receive the consciousness is going to be behind you, and then you that don't receive the consciousness through the womb, you're in the front. Because I don't give a damn what type of movement or whatever it is that's going on. You're going to always find a woman. I don't care what type of movement. Name a movement, and there's a woman in the beginning. I don't care who it is. And then you go to Santeria and all these other things, they'll tell you ain't going nowhere without a woman. I don't care what type of magic you're doing or spells you're doing. You're not going anywhere without a woman present. Even though she
Yes.
might seem unimportant in the background, whatever the case might be, but it would just never be just all men going nowhere. You're going to need a woman. And everybody knows this, whatever the case might be. So the thing is, if all consciousness is birthed through the womb, how do you lead if she gets the consciousness, if she receives the seeds of sermon through her body, through her womb? And that's why women are receiving consciousness now. That's why things are changing now. Because
Hmm.
women, young and old, they're
Yes.
receiving these messages, these downloads. And because they're receiving these
Yes.
downloads, they're able to basically, on some level articulate, but some men don't understand it. They don't understand it because they don't have the capacity, meaning the hardware to interpret it. Our are different. We interpret information. We multitask. It's all kinds of different things that we do differently. But the thing about them, see, that's how we lead. We lead in that way. It's not that we want role reversal, like they say this is patriarch. It's not patriarch, it's male domination. Patriarch is just male lead. Male domination is, the woman is an object and you're unimportant and it's all about me. You know what I'm saying? That's not
Right.
natural, whatever the case might be. What's natural is, if you want to practice patriarch, practice true patriarch. True patriarch is male lead. But see, even in those households, they know that a woman has a certain role that they know that they cannot take. It's just like men understanding that women are the ones who have babies. They got to understand is consciousness is born through them. Because I don't care who it is, people have their beliefs, but all their beliefs was birthed through a woman. Even people's gods and stuff was birthed through a human woman. So the thing is,
Yeah,
that
it's
when
all
people
they
start
all
to
were
look,
females first.
yeah, females
Yes.
first. So
All the
everybody
gods were
came from a
females.
female. So they, you know what I'm saying? So the thing
Mm.
is, everybody's God came through a human female. So and whatever it is that they believe, you're not going anywhere without a woman. So that's why we lead. That's why we are in the forefront, because we receive something. And then right now, where everybody's receiving downloads, I don't care what type of race you are, but everybody embrace it in different ways. So we're just going along the way we're going along. And see, that's why so many sisters are getting together. They're having sister circles and all kinds of things like that, because they're receiving something. And then the brothers, they
Mm-hmm.
own what they own, because the thing is, they're going to move. A sister is going to move. She's going to move because she's
Yes.
receiving it. She's feeling it in her spirit. She's going to move. She's not going to wait for nobody. And then people
That's
are like,
right.
oh, what's going on, or whatever the case might be. But that's just the way it is. And it's not so
Yes.
much, again, it's not role reversal. It's just the way it is. She
The
has the
natural
baby, so
order of
she
things.
received the consciousness. It's
That's right.
natural order. Exactly. Natural.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
So anyway,
to the brothers, going to actually be doing a show. The show tomorrow is we're going to be bringing in a couple brothers to speak to the
yes,
brothers from, the matriarchal point of view, to give you guys a better understanding, because, a man receives information from a man better than he would a woman. So,
exactly.
yeah, so
Exactly.
it's going to be a really
So,
good show tomorrow. I hope you guys tune in for sure. You got another question, Monique. Latoya says, do you think that turmoil is upon earth because us women are being mistreated? I do.
of course, yes, of course. And then also too, see, and then also on the other end of that, because of the mistreatment, these women are unleashing these wraths. You know what I'm saying? And they don't understand the power that they have, whatever the case might be. But because of the mistreatment and the abuse, or whatever the case might be, they can put out a whole bunch of dysfunction in the world unknowingly. You know what I'm saying? So until she reconcile that abuse or whatever it is that happened to her, you know what I'm saying, and begin to correct that, then she could begin to change things around her, and then that whole ecosystem around her begins to change, and then things could begin to change in life. So yes, to answer the question, yes, I think that's why a lot of turmoil is here. But see, also too, there's a lot of confusion, and a lot of women are experiencing things and they just don't know what to do, and half of them think they're crazy. You know what I'm saying? So the thing, going back to mental illness, again, we have to evaluate what it is that's going on with us, because some of us might think we're going crazy, but it's not. It's just us accessing our power, especially those who are becoming
Mm,
clean, who's making our own food, growing our own food, making our own medicines, making our own
yes.
clothes, making our own menstrual items, or whatever the case might be, because all
Yes.
of that
That's
plays a
important.
part. Everything surrounding you, even down to
Yes.
your panties. If somebody made those panties for you, they made them with a certain formula, and that's what people have to understand when these things are created and treated. So what do I mean by that? Okay, well, panties are colored, dyed. They came from a
Mm,
plant, or whatever the case might be. So all those processes, and then you put them on your behind, and you wonder why, what's going on. But when you take the initiative to put your spirit into things that you make for yourself, that's when you become powerful. That becomes your armor, because you done went out there in nature and you done made you an outfit, or whatever the case might be, and that outfit is going to protect you because you meditated into it, you prayed into it. So now you done created your armor. So now I'm putting it on because I done made this shirt, or whatever the case might be. So now I become powerful. So I'm telling you.
yes. I mean, at one point in time, we were wearing nature. We weren't wearing fabrics and this and that. We were just wearing nature, and
Yeah,
so
a
that was
long time ago.
absorbing. Yes, a long time ago. I'm trying to
A
get back
long time
there.
ago. Exactly. But we could take metals and make, you know, all kinds of stuff. I mean, we could just make anything from nature because that's where everything comes from anyway. The concept comes from nature. But the thing is, I would
Yes.
use natural dyes because there are so many natural plants that you can get them and they have this natural coloring. And then you could take anything, white, and then just dip and create your own colors and things like that. So
Hmm.
the more closer that you get back to nature and understanding, actually, and understanding also where you live at. So whatever you live at, if you got anything wild that's growing around you, but whatever grows within that environment and in that soil, I would do it immediately. So if you live up north, I would see what grows up north and I would eat from that. If you live down south, eat what eat
Yes.
what's around you down there, because the thing that people don't understand, they go to these farmer markets and all these other places, but there is food from all over the world. So the thing is, you're receiving information, antibiotics, and all these type of things from all over the world instead of what's around you. So when these illnesses and sicknesses and things come along, you're not protected, and that's why people get flus and all these and pneumonias and all these other things, is because you're not eating
That's
from the
deep.
dirt. Yeah, you're not eating from the
Wow.
dirt that's around you, because you go into the grocery store getting stuff from Mexico. I mean, after you eat it from Mexico, go to Mexico, you will be fine. If you're eating stuff from China or other places, or whatever the case might be, then you wonder why you're having problems here in America, wherever you are, Georgia, California, wherever the case might be. So you have to eat from your environment, and once you start eating from your environment, then you become much better. But also, if you grow it from your own hands, because I,
That's
I
good.
tell sisters, well, let me just give some tips. Like, I told this to a couple of brothers too, but I tell them to make spit pots. And spit pots is basically just going to get you some natural flower pots. Try not to get plastic, to try to get something natural, even if you just have to make it. But anyway, just put the
Like
soil
the
in there
clay
and then,
ones.
yeah, put the soil in there and spit in it. Put your DNA in there, put your seeds in there, and let the plant grow. And when that plant grows, it's going to grow with your DNA in mind. So whatever needs to be repaired, that plant is going to do it. Because there's an
Wow. That's
intangible
amazing.
relationship between you and plants. So the thing is, I mean, you could do that tomorrow. Some people, whatever the case might be, and they have to just be mindful of seeds, but they can really heal themselves. And trust me,
Yes.
trust me, I know I have no conditions. You know what I'm saying? I don't want them. I had one condition one time, and that shit scared the shit out of me, and I didn't want to be that way anymore. So again, with the spit pots or whatever the case might be, you can do that. But see, also too, I mean, there's some other stuff from sisters. I'm not gonna get into all that, but the spit pots are universal. So that's your DNA, and then start growing you some plants, and then that's for you. And then you can even have your children do it, and that's their special plant. And you know what I'm saying, and then you can boil it or whatever it is, or whatever the case might be. They have asthma, whatever the case might be, then they can grow what they need. So yeah.
Wow.
Hmm.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I mean, does anybody, you guys have any questions? Everybody like, wow, oh my, yes, wow, wow, boom.
And
Yeah,
these are
the
things
spit
we
potty, what's
used to
up?
know. Hmm.
Yeah, that
And these are
spit
things
pot.
that we used to know and things we used to practice. But, we just decided we want to be dependent, and we sit around like, bumps on the log when things happen to us and phenomena and things start happening to our bodies. We don't understand what happens. And see, also to being in tune with yourself, when things are coming along, so you always are prepared. You prepared ahead of time. You got to go to work tomorrow. You're going to have this and that. You look at the weather. You're going to have your clothes out or whatever the case might be. But just imagine doing that for yourself within. That's inner cultivation.
Yes,
Yeah, that's the
yes,
true prayer. The true church is within you. Yeah,
indeed. We are the temple, for sure.
exactly. Exactly. That's
Yes,
why we lead, because we receive discernment.
yes, definitely,
Okay.
definitely. Well, we got a couple more topics. The next one is probably going to hit close to home for a lot of us, and that's discussing, exposing children to sex at early ages and the negative effects that it has on those children.
Mhm. Well, again, as what people don't understand and get, that certain things are traumatic to certain people, and exposing children to sex too early, children become stunted And once they become stunted, they actually, in their spirit and their mentality, get stuck at that age or whatever the case might be. And because of that, they take that on into adulthood, but they act like children. So the thing is not positive, it's actually a negative effect. And people say, well, sex is natural, blah, 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 but it's still not natural in front of children. And see, what people don't get and understand is when they want to get this stuff from animals. They look at animals and think, oh, they go have sex in front of you and all this and that. But see, animals have no choice. Their environments have been invaded or whatever the case might be. They've thrown in zoos. So they're going to react naturally, whatever the case might be, but they don't care about people watching them or whatever. But because if they were able to choose, they would probably be somewhere discreet, you know what I'm saying, off in the cut or wherever they be in their environment doing what it is that they do. So the thing is, exposing children to sex is not healthy because it creates trauma within them. It creates trauma because they don't understand what's going on. They don't have the comprehension of seeing what's going on. And some children imitate. They imitate, oh, I see
Yes.
my mama and daddy, or my mama and her man, or whoever doing what, or whatever the case might be. And then they go and they do these things with other children, thinking this is how it's supposed to be. But it's not how it's supposed to be. The next thing you know, the person got social workers all in their life. Why is your child in here humping on somebody? Have they been raped? And that might not be the case. They might be imitating, or they might have been raped. So the thing is, exposing that to them is not healthy. It's not healthy for their psyche. It's not healthy for them as a child, whatever the case might be. And once they go through puberty, they're going to come to you and they're going to have these questions and feelings within themselves. You understand what I'm saying? But being children, they have to go through the rites of passage and properly grow and then properly cultivate each step, you know what I'm saying? Because between the time that they're born all the way up to their 9 years old. See, people think that once the baby come out, it stops growing, but that's not true. Just like we were discussing yesterday, that the female is born with her eggs, but her eggs still grow with her body. So between 1 and 9 years old, you still growing, but you're still growing things within the body. That's why children have what is called growing pains, but also the endorphins just keep pumping out of them because it really hurts to grow. But for bone to grow and all that, adults couldn't even take that, but children can. That's why they call it they're resilient. They can jump back up after they fell down, roll down the damn stairs, whatever the case might be. It's because they have the capability and their body is steady releasing endorphins all the time. That's why they silly or whatever the case might be. That's between 1 and 9, and then this lines up with numerology. And then from 10 to 13 is activation. And that's when it's supposed to happen, where certain hormones and things are activated within the body, and then they come into their prophecy. So that's how it's supposed to be. But we don't practice none of these things because we all lost in somewhere else, whatever the case might be. But that's just how it works. So exposing children to sex is not healthy. I mean, they one day they will be there. So we don't have to be so desperate where we have to expose children to this and say it's natural because we look at zoo animals and think that's how it's supposed to be, or a dog that's on the street and then he doesn't have his natural environment, but also been domesticated into believing, you know, whatever, because dogs were wolves once upon a time and they were domesticated. So the
Mhm.
thing is, they're gonna just do their business in front of you. They don't care because the thing is, they're animals. But you know, if the animal had a choice, you know, they have intelligence. They would be discreet and be somewhere else, off in the cut,
They
wherever
really
they
would.
are.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, they
Yep.
would.
So
Because I know sometimes I like dogs, and sometimes when I would take them to use the bathroom, they, look at me like, you gonna stand here and watch me? That's kind of like the communication we had going on. So they really
oh
would,
God.
be discreet with it if they could. So I wanted to ask, and we got a couple questions as well. Um, for the people who or the children who end up becoming stunted or not able to move forward from being exposed to sex, do they eventually become promiscuous later on in life?
Well, okay, like say for instance, most of those who become promiscuous are those who've been molested, sexually abused, and they become numb. And once they become numb, they don't care. It's equated to cutting. You know, I don't know if you ever heard anybody cutting themselves. They need to feel
Hmm.
pain or whatever the case might be. It's not so much that they're doing it. They have disconnect totally and completely, especially females, because that's where you see it in. And they totally disconnect themselves from their own body. They feel that they're worthless. They don't mean anything, whatever the case might be. So they'll go out there. They become promiscuous and let anybody use their body. But also, too, it like say for instance, an abused child will have an overabundance of endorphins. And in order to receive that endorphins, you have to receive some type of pain. So and so they amp that up within themselves. So what they do is they'll cut or do something that's abusive to themselves, and then it'll increase that rush afterwards, and it becomes a chemical imbalance. So again, to answer the question, you mostly see that in women who were sexually abused, that become promiscuous, who get out there and just let anybody use their body. Again, they're disconnected. It's not so much they like it, it feels good, and this is what they want. It's just nothing to them. It's just like this piece of paper, or you just writing on it, or whatever the case might be. But the thing is, it's not that they don't care. Again, they just disconnected from their body, basically. And then they just need to have some counseling or something, talk to somebody about what had happened, but also understand their behavior. And most people I talk to, once I explain to them what's going on in their life, whatever, they have a realization. And once you have a realization, comes change. So I mean, it's an easy fix. I mean, we make ourselves sick or whatever the case might be, but also to the environment is catered to creating that sickness. So we have to learn to discern and maneuver it through. But again, people are receiving downloads to maneuver through all this, because the thing is, the matriarch's about to return and the consciousness is here.
Yeah,
So yeah.
indeed. So now you had mentioned that for some children, they become violated and they get stuck in at that age or whatever, even into adulthood. So is
Mhm.
that to say that, they are like an adult but have a childlike mind, and how do they usually act?
Well, when they become stunted, okay, basically, yes, they grow into an adult or whatever the case might be, but their spirit and their it's not so much that, because they can be knowledgeable, they can have the what you call that book smart or whatever the case might be. Because book smart, that is not necessarily means that you're a smart person, because the books were made by
It's
somebody.
true.
Somebody wrote that. That's somebody's consciousness or whatever the case might be that people follow. So when these people talk about all these books, like all these books belong to my uncle, whatever. But when you talk about books are somebody else's consciousness that you have internalized, whatever the case might be. So the thing is, anybody can do that. But once they become stunted, they become stunted from that pattern that I was telling you about between 1 and 9. There's certain things that are activated. I mean, that grows within them, and then from 11, I mean, from 10 to 13, there's an activation. So they miss all those components, even though their body grows into this adult or whatever the case might be. But there are certain things that come about at certain stages, and if they haven't received that, they get stunted there. But see, the funny thing about it is the body will always revisit that time, and that's why some people have flashbacks. And once they have
I was gonna say,
flashbacks, all of a sudden it comes out, oh my God, I just remembered I was raped at 4. Oh my God, I remember this happened to me. I was only 3, or I was a baby. You know what I'm saying? That's why some people have memories of being babies and being messed with and all kinds of things like that, is because the body would take them back there, especially when you purging. You purging, you cleaning yourself. You're a sister that say, okay, you know what, I need to get my life together, and you start eating the right foods, and all of a sudden you start having these nightmares. It's not so much that you're doing something wrong, it's you're revisiting these things that had happened to you, and they have to be corrected. And there's nothing wrong with that.
mhm.
There's nothing wrong with working to correct that and then go through it all over again, whatever the case might be. Some people go as far as visiting their birth and becoming the cocoon or whatever. You hear about all these different mechanisms that people use to help people through these processes, depending on how young they are when these things happen to them. So once they go through all that, then they are actually reborn, and from that point on, they receive all this, for each step, and then they internalize all that. And then once they internalize each one of these steps, they can actually be fully functional and healed from the trauma that had happened to them. And then also too, they can get rid of that imprint, because every time you're traumatized, it's imprinted. And then every time you have a baby, or right now, if I get traumatized, it passes on to my children. You know what I'm saying? Even though they're already born, but they can still feel it. So that's why some people can feel
Mm,
when somebody died, or something happened to their child, or whatever the case might be. So we don't talk about those things no more. But that's why. You know what I'm saying? So it just has to be corrected. Anything can be corrected. So I know some things, some people like, oh, they want to give up on everybody, but I believe in all people. I love people, and I work with people the majority of my life, whatever the case might be. So it's just about correcting. Yeah.
right, definitely. Well, our last topic that we were going to discuss today was the menstrual cycle, and what
Hmm.
exactly is it, and how will we know if our menstrual cycle is correct today?
Okay. Well, First of all, this is like one of my favorite subjects because, you know, a while back in 2009, I got myself into a situation where I had to come back from. And within coming back from that, I had to learn about anatomy, the anatomy of the female body. So that's what I'm very well versed in it. So anyway, the menstrual cycle, we've all been taught, I was taught from a man that your menstrual cycle is blood or whatever the case might be, that whatever the case, nobody calls it that but us. Because when you go see your gynecologist and they go to the school and they say that, they'll probably flunk out. But that's what they call it, menstrual fluid, because the fluid has, okay, basically it's a very potent and powerful electrolyte. It's mostly water. It makes sense because it's the substance that is used to make the placenta, the water, the bag, the baby, and all this and that, whatever the case might be. It's a very powerful fluid. It has stem cells and all kinds of other things or whatever. It's just basically a lining of the uterus. And once the lining is not used or whatever the case might be, it sheds through the uterus and then it comes out. It's purged for the next one to start growing, because over time it grows, like within those um, days right before your cycle, whatever the case might be, it grows up or whatever. So anyway, so the truth about it is, again, it's not hemoglobin, the hemoglobin that comes out the arm or whatever the case might be. You have some hemoglobin, a little bit in there. You have white blood cells, but for the most part, it's a very powerful and strong electrolyte. So there's a lot of implications there because we don't understand what we have that's coming up out of us. We don't understand what we have, and we just throw it all away. We mistreat and misuse our body. Back in the day, you talk about Native Americans, they used to make bleed houses. That's what they call it. They interpret it as being, but they had a name for it, Native American name, but they were bleed houses where the women, when they cycled, because they used to cycle around the same time. I don't know if you ever just been around a house full of women and everybody cycling around the same time, and that's what they
Yeah.
used to do. So they used to build these houses over land, and then they would walk this land because it wasn't like they had a pad on or whatever the case might be, and then they would just let their fluid drop, and then when they let their fluid drop, they would move, the men would move this house around. For the women, like every month they would move it around, and everywhere they move it from, the ground becomes fertile. The
Mm.
ground becomes very fertile. So the thing is, it's the implications is, I'm telling you, we just need to understand what we're working with. Now, also, I guess the best analogy that I like to give is when I tell people, I ask them, I say, have you ever took B12 or a B12 shot or whatever the case might be? People are like, yeah. And I'm like, do you know where they get that from? B12, it comes from the sewer.
Yeah.
A bacteria that grows in the sewer, and that's from your shit and your piss and our period and all kinds of other stuff that goes and throw up or whatever that goes that's in the sewer, whatever the case might be. But this is the stuff that give you energy to make you exercise and whatever the case
Hey.
might be, do well. So if the sewer can do that for you, just imagine what the implications are for your menstrual. And then, electrolyte is what? Electrolyte is like an IV, Gatorade, and all these other things, whatever the case might be. But if the most potent and powerful electrolyte comes from between your legs, then what can
Wow.
you say? And anybody can test it. Like I was saying to you, you know what I'm saying? It's like, if you need to have knowledge of self. So only thing it takes is for you to take it. You can send it to one of those companies that test anything, and when they send you back the report, I guarantee they're not going to tell you it's hemoglobin. Hemoglobin is what comes out of our iron. Hemoglobin is blood. That's just the technical name for it, whatever the case might be. But nobody would ever say hemoglobin comes out between your legs. It's a little bit. You got more hemoglobin in the glob of spit than you do coming out between your legs. It's mostly water. So again,
Wow.
and then it's the lining of the uterus, and that's what happens. So when it grows, or whatever the case might be, it turns into what we see, the placenta and all the other things with the baby and all that. So anyway, so it's just knowing and understanding who you are, understand what you have, but understanding your body. And once you understand your body,
Right.
then you understand your power. You can move forward because
Yes.
God come to me and say, to know something, to know a thing, it's nature. So everybody know our nature but us, and that's why we are controlled. That's why we don't have any unity, because they know how to create disunity, because they know how we work. So
Right.
again, everybody knows the truth but us, because again, when you praise and promote and push your woman up, your race thrives. And then you just look at anybody else but us. But everybody say, oh, their woman supports and this and that other. But the thing is, they put their woman on a pedestal. And when you do that, of course your woman is going to support you. So it becomes easy. My son support
Mm-hmm.
me. So the thing is, when they support me, whatever the case might be, I know it can be done. So most of the men that are around me, they work. I work with them to come into their true selves and come into their true power. And there's nothing wrong with learning from a woman. And then some men
No,
say
it's not.
they can't learn anything from a woman, but I'm telling you that that's not true. They can
Well, the
learn the
mother is the
most
first
valuable
teacher,
lesson.
right?
Exactly. Yeah, they can learn
Yeah,
valuable lessons from their own mama, especially if they have
that's
that
right.
relationship with her. And if they don't, they can pray and meditate into her mitochondria and still receive that prophecy because guess what? It's theirs. It dwells within their body. So anyway,
Yes, that's right. Now, you had mentioned that today the menstruals that we have is actually us hemorrhaging, and it's not the natural menstrual that we should have at all. As you know, as far as how it was in the days of old, can you elaborate on why we are bleeding so much during
ag-
our menstruals?
again, it goes back to diet because the thing is, it's thick. Like that's why it's so red, it's thick. And then back in the day when we used to eat, like say for instance, if you eat from nature, it becomes thinner and thinner. And then some women have it where, like in certain countries, where okay, look, let me tell you something. When I was in the hospital, I had died and came back. And when I was in the hospital, I didn't eat for 40 days. For 40 days, they had me on the IV. And I menstruated. But when I menstruated, it nothing came out. But I knew it was there. You know what I'm saying? So the thing is,
Mhm.
that's how it's supposed to be. You know what I'm saying? It's not supposed to
Drip.
drip out like that. And then the reason why it drips out like that is because of our diet. So once we start eating differently and we start becoming clean and things like that, we're gonna have our menstrual, but it stays within. Does it drip out because it's so thin? That's just like when a woman when her fluid come out when she's sexually aroused or whatever the case might be. I mean, it can be a lot or whatever the case might be, but like maybe
But
she's
it's
out
not
on a date or
dripping.
whatever the case might be. It's not like it's all over the place where you got to have a pad. So the thing
Right.
is, and that's how it's supposed to be. But again, it's
Right.
all about diet. It's about the foods
Yes,
we're
it is.
eating and all that or whatever the case might be. And then during that time, like I was saying, that's the lowest point in our bodies where we have the lowest point of estrogen in our body when we go through our menstrual, or whatever the case might be, because everything is shed because there's no reason to keep it because you need the extra estrogen to grow the baby, to create fat in your body and all that, because it's the substance, it was what creates matter. It's what
Hmm.
creates the body, whatever the case might be. So that's why the egg is not fertilized, you know what I'm saying? When the egg is fertilized, it increases, but if it's not, it decreases, and that's why we rage or whatever the case. And depending on your diet, once again, you know what I'm saying, you can have problems. So to me, I mean, that's basically it. We still have it because the thing is, it's natural. It's natural because it lines the uterus or whatever the case might be, and then you have the baby. But as far as flowing and heaviness and all that is not really natural or whatever the case because again it's we were tricked into believing that's how it goes, this is how it looks, and this is what it's supposed to look like, and that's not true. And understanding our bodies and the implications of how we work, then we'll begin to understand, okay, this is not the right sign and symptom to look at, and we can move towards create that within ourselves just by changing our diet, but also being mindful of our cycles. Because that's how some women find out they have fibroids and all kinds of other things due to heavy bleeding, anemia, and all kinds of other disorders in their body because their uterus tells them, whatever the case might be. Because I'm telling you, every female problem down there is contributing to some type of problem within her body. So your womb tells you something. So females have to pay attention. So that's
Indeed.
it.
Now, do you think that tampons and pads have something to do with the heavy bleeding and the hemorrhaging? Do they contribute? Because of course they have chemicals in them that are not good for us, and that causes cancer. So when you mention us making our own clothes and making our own sanitary napkins and things like that from natural ingredients, that's
Mhm.
definitely what needs to happen. But do you think that store bought tampons and pads contributes to hemorrhaging?
It contributes to sickness, and yes, it does. It contributes to sicknesses because they have all these gels and all kinds of other things that absorb or whatever that's unnatural, but also they release chemicals that go straight up in your body, straight up to your uterus, or whatever, your cervix, or whatever the case might be, and it affects you. So, I mean, it's not natural. It's nothing natural about them. But I know it's a movement right now where I know a couple of sisters that are selling these pads is supposed to have like herbs and things like that. That's more absorbent than these unnatural things that they use. But we still have to be mindful of what those are. Because I mean, we can make our own stuff. We just have to look within nature and look what absorbs what absorbs water. You know what I'm saying? And that's healthy. But also, there's a exchange where it releases, because whatever it is going to release something. So whatever it releases is natural to you and your body. So yes, it plays a big part, especially tampons and toxic shock syndrome. I mean, I knew a lady who died.
Yes.
I went to her funeral because she wore a tampon and died. So I couldn't believe it. And that was like early on when I was young or whatever the case might be. But yes, it contributes. And then also, to these things are not made by women. So we have to
No,
wake
they're
up.
not.
They're not made by women. They were made by somebody else, even down to a bra that we wear. It was not made by a woman. It
Nothing is,
wasn't.
right?
It's nothing.
None
It's
of
not
it.
made for a woman, right? And then a lot of women, if you ask a woman, do you like bras or whatever the case might be, it's nothing wrong with it or whatever the case. But the thing is, we didn't create the design, and then that underwire.
I
Now we're
agree.
finding out that wire, that metal is like contributing to cancers and all kinds of stuff or whatever the case, because they just don't give a damn. Oh, just throw a wire in it, and now we got the push up bra jumping off, whatever the case might be. But the thing is, it's still contributing to all these problems later on in life. That's why I just
Yes.
do sports bras, and, you know what I'm saying? But the
Yeah.
thing is, again, we didn't make them. We didn't come up with this design. So maybe a woman should create that or come up with a design. Again, sisters are making everything. They're making all kinds of stuff. So yeah.
Yes, they are. Now, Dominique, she had a baby about 4 months ago, little baby Ash, and she says, and she's breastfeeding him. So she's not having a menstrual during breastfeeding. That's one of the benefits of breastfeeding, and actually
Mm-hmm.
stops you from having a menstrual. But she says that she still has menstrual cramps, as if she
Mm-hmm.
is having a period, but she's just not bleeding.
How old is our baby now?
So Ash is about 4 months old, I believe. Right,
That's
Dominique?
normal. That's normal, because the thing is, because I breastfed all my babies. I really did. I breastfed. I did them justice. But the thing is, yeah. But the thing is, this the uterus. It's basically the uterus contracting. So that's what she's feeling. So yeah, she can go ahead, because that's why she's gonna have like a real slim stomach if she keeps breastfeeding him. But yeah, so all that is normal. She's feeling the cramps or whatever the case might be, and it's clearing her out. And of course, I really enjoyed not having the menstrual during the time when I was breastfeeding. So yeah, and then you're not supposed to be able to get pregnant easy and all kinds of things that goes on while you're breastfeeding. And then you can eat what you want because your metabolism is so speedy, because it got to make that milk, and to make that milk, you have to have a lot of power and energy. So so
Yes.
yeah, it's
And
normal for her to
breastfeeding
have.
increases your appetite as well, right? Breastfeeding
Yeah,
does.
yes, it
Because we
does,
was
because
in
you need
Punta
all that power to
Gorda.
make milk.
Yes, I'm like, sister, you girl, your appetite, girl. So yeah, it definitely increases the appetite. But like you said,
Hmm.
you got to have something to produce that milk for the baby. So that's a
Yeah.
beautiful thing.
So
Oh, he's six
yeah, so
months. He's six
he's 6 months.
months.
Yeah, he's still a baby.
Mhm.
So that's normal, and it's gonna stop because I mean I went 2 years with each one of mine. So it seemed like to me, once she get about, I think, close to a year, she's gonna forget. I mean, she probably should be used to it by now, but it's all normal. It's nothing abnormal about it. Matters of fact, the only thing that, what I'm saying, depends on her, because when I had one son and I had pain, I was pregnant with my other son, so I had to, whatever. So I was like, wow, whatever the case might be, I was still breastfeeding him, big old boy.
Wow.
But anyway, but yeah, it's normal. So it's normal, and it's a beautiful thing, because
Yeah.
she's doing her baby justice. That especially a boy, because it's a special formula for him. And then of course, and then like I said, with that cultivation system and bringing our voice to be complete, she can meditate and channel that into him to become more complete. Because again, we're
Mhm.
going back into that phase, and that doesn't mean he's going to turn into a girl. It just means he's going to be a boy that's complete. Because it doesn't. I
Right.
know the XX is synonymous with female, and then the Y is synonymous with male, but it's just they're just missing components, and it's just incomplete. And the mutation is what's complete. I mean, creating that incompletion. So again, I believe that all the babies are being born complete, whether they're born boy or girl. But of course,
Hmm.
they have. their genitals or whatever. So we just have to see what those implications are in the future.
Right, definitely.
Because again,
Shalem, Latoya, I'm sorry, sis. Latoya says she's gonna go, but we're gonna be back on tomorrow at 8 o'clock, and we're going to have a special show tomorrow for the brothers. To basically break it down to them as far as what the matriarch is, and this will be coming from both the female and the male perspective. We're going to bring in a couple brothers that are very knowledgeable in what the matriarch is all about and can give you understanding from a male's point of view. So we'll be back on at 8 o'clock, Latoya. So
I'm looking forward to that. I am looking forward
that's
to that.
gonna
I
be
can't wait
nice.
because the thing is, yeah, we'll see what everybody got to say then.
Yes, I mean, we got a lot of brothers that are listening now, because when we first started teaching this, and we were able to prove that Eve came first in the scriptures, we were able to prove that. So when we first started saying these things, we were getting cussed out, called all kind of demons, Jezebels, blase, squaze. So it's great
What?
now to see that. Yeah. So it's good to see now that people are listening and like really paying attention and realizing that this is the truth. That the female came first, life comes through the womb and not a rib. I'm just
Yeah.
excited about, what Ashai is doing and bringing this all together. And again, I mean, I can't thank you enough for all the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding that you bring. And,
Yes.
everybody's excited. Like,
Yes,
we got to do this every day, Monique. So, I hope we got a lot more to say, because,
Yeah,
we
I mean, as
gotta
long
think
as
about
it's long within the field of. I mean, anyway, some
it.
things are not for everybody, but yes.
Right. Indeed. Yes, I know. You definitely made that clear. And, that's one thing that I had to explain to my husband, because he was kind of getting in his feelings and feeling like, we shouldn't have separate nothing, it should always be co-ed. And I was like, well, everything that we do, there are going to be some things for the females and there are going to be some things for the men. And it's okay for us to commune with for the sisters to commune with the sisters and the brothers to commune with the brothers, just as long as everybody knows their place. Nobody's trying to conspire against the men, and I would hope the men aren't trying to conspire against us, but the separation will be necessary in some instances so that we can I guess make the best of what we're here for.
Exactly, especially through healing, because the female healing is way different from the male healing. Even though it's,
Yes.
we whatever the case might be, I'm telling you, because women just interpret things different from men. Men, they know
Yes.
how to block stuff out or whatever the case might be. So
I'm
it's a whole different healing process.
Yes, they are like Neo in the Matrix, all by themselves, each one of them, just blocking. Now, Dominique asks, can you speak on the children? Can you elaborate, Dominique? And I think Monique did explain that when you do the spit pot, it's basically for any illness. I did see your question you were asking about diabetes. So anything that you're suffering from, you spit in the pot, put your seed in there, meditate on it and with it. And when that food
Grow
is
it,
ready you say
harvest,
boil
whatever
it,
it could be. No, it doesn't matter what it is. Whether it's like you said,
however
it could
she
be
cook it.
food, it could be a herb, whatever it is. That plant is going to grow with repairing whatever condition that person has, and then whatever they have, that condition is in there. So whatever they have, it's going to come with a medicine. So whatever
Yes.
it is that they want to grow, even if it's flowers, and you put it in your tub, you let it get dry, you put it in your tub water, whatever. Because again,
Take
it's all orifices. Even doing
right.
a vape where you can vape and boil it and smell it. If you got like lung problems or whatever, you need to rub it in your eye, put it in your hair, whatever. So do it for
Yeah.
yourself and your children as a repair, because nature's there to do that. There's an interchangeable relationship between us and nature, so use it.
Yes, especially to the parents. A lot of the children are dealing with bronchitis and asthma and, ADHD, all of these different disorders that, they're being diagnosed with and prescribed all of this medicine. Let them do the spit pot with them, and let them everything that they need, because the herbs of the land is for the healing of the nations. So, we don't have to seek any kind of pharmaceuticals. They're derived or they're made from the herbs anyway. So like Monique had mentioned, just go to the source, directly to the source, and eat to live, don't live to eat.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
yeah, but do you have any more, any more information you'd like to share or any last comments before we end the chat?
No, not at this time. I mean, that's it.
Yeah,
And I'm just looking forward to tomorrow.
indeed. So if we can go on at 8 p.m., would that be good for you, Monique? That way that'll give
Yeah,
me,
yeah, 8
that's
p.m. will be
five.
fine for everybody else.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll be on tomorrow at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we thank you guys so much for tuning in to the Return of the Matriarch presents Tell the Whole Damn Truth, right? Thank you so much, guys.
All right.
Take it easy, sis. Talk to you
All
later.
right. All right. Good evening. Bye, everybody.
Peace.